Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Since General Mkhwanazi did his press conference, there's been an interesting phenomenon. I don't know if you've seen it. People who are accused, implicated, rushing to mainstream media to do interviews. And those interviews are backfiring spectacularly. Spectacularly. The latest person to play this game is the CEO of the IDT, Tebogo Malaka. Mama, what are you doing? Who advised you to go to ENCA and give that interview? Because now Daily Maverick has come with more files, more fire, more fuel to the flame. I don't know where these people are going to for their public relations, but they're getting advice from the wrong public relations people. They're not responding to the concerns of the public, and in fact, they're exposing more. In fact, I think Pule Jones did a good job with the interview, the ENCA interview with the IDT CEO, but I still want to see them going against my favorite, Sakina Kamwendo. I want to see them going against Sakina Kamwendo. I call Sakina Kamwendo the bus stop. You will stop there. She will stop nonsense in those interviews. Ask Paul O'Sullivan, he couldn't handle the heat. He asked to be let off the bus mid-trip. He was like, I can't handle Sakina Kamwendo. Let me off. Ask also that former mayor of Johannesburg. Remember, there was a former mayor of Johannesburg who went there talking to Sakina. He thought it was going to be a walk in the park. It was the end of his career. I wish that the CEO of IDT, Brown Mkhotsi, Katiso Molefe, Senzo Mkhunu, everybody, please go to Sakina Kamwendo Transportation Services because she is the bus stop. This rushing to do interviews thing is the own goal that keeps on repeating in every major match in 2025. It makes me wonder if there's something in the water. Think about the sequence of events. Do you remember when Brown Mkhotsi was mentioned by General Mkhwanazi? We saw very funny interviews. The most peculiar one was that one on Newsroom Africa with the chap who says, I know Brown Mkhotsi, then my aunt kicked me out, then Brown gave me a job. Oh, Brown Mkhotsi, he is a good guy. We've seen quite a bit. We've seen a lot. So that was the first one. It was the most strange, but it wasn't the first one. The first one that actually was quite damaging was the SABC interview where, who was it? It was Shadrack Sibia. He takes that interview and he's like, no, I'm the one, AKA case. I'm the one who handled the AKA case. I'm the one who pushed. I don't know what Mkhwanazi is talking about. I was in a meeting with him the other time. He was being very nice. And then they asked him some very direct questions. And the more he answered, he seems very emotive, very angry, was not responding to the material issues that were raised by Mkhwanazi. And that was just another interesting interview. Then there was the Brown Mkhotsi interview on SABC. Remember the Brown Mkhotsi interview on SABC? That interview there was 4 minutes that was uploaded, almost as a promo, like we're going to be able to get it on all the platforms. It's disappeared into thin air. And in that 4 minutes, he was admitting that he had access to police documents that were privileged, saying, no, I'll explain on the appropriate platform. Give me the appropriate platform and I'll explain. And I was like, you are on this platform already. Explain to the SABC. What more of an appropriate platform do you want than the South African Broadcasting Corporation, the oldest broadcasting corporation in Africa, if I'm not mistaken, and the largest on YouTube? Why would you not tell people on the South African Broadcasting Corporation what the story is, how you came to be in possession of privileged police documents, access to dockets, all of that stuff? So people have been going to these interviews and implicating themselves. I wish Katiso Molefe did an interview. I wish that the Kenny Kunene story was true so that we would have seen what was happening. Charles Dickens wrote an amazing book called A Tale of Two Cities. And in the book, on page 1, he says, Mzansi was going through the worst of times, and it was going through the best of times. It was a period where one could not blink, because if you blink, you will miss the movie, the drama, the series. Charles Dickens, Tale of Two Cities. That's what we're going through now. So let's talk about the IDT CEO, the interview, and the new developments that have come out from Daily Maverick. And they released small snippets of that bribe discussion, and now they're releasing more so that they can get it. Because she came out now, she's doing interviews on the basis of the short interview. She's like, no, they edited it, they cut out. Okay, let me focus. Let me go through my thoughts in order. Firstly, that meeting was a blunder. The meeting point in and of itself was a blunder. You're flying in to Stellenbosch to meet a journalist as a CEO, suspended or not. You're going there with your spokesperson. What are you guys doing? That's not how you play the bribe game. And then also you are meeting the journalist in a public space in a restaurant. Your colleague is carrying a cash bribe. What the? Who flies all the way to a city to offer a bribe? Who offers it on the first meeting? You have to read the room. You have to gauge the temperature, mama. You can't just jump in now. Here's some money. Let's talk. Let's see if we can give you a token of appreciation or whatever. Look, you actually, if you're going to do this, I would assume you'd have to fly that journalist in, book their hotel, go to that hotel in the nighttime, make your offer. Not in public, in the people. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Look, you don't just bribe somebody. These allegations are not like a traffic stop where you're just going to offer cold drink money out on the road. Look, I mean, this decision making doesn't lend well to my assessment of her decision making capabilities and her discretion and her discernment, because it doesn't seem to me like she showed a lot of those things. You know, on this restaurant meeting things, you know, one of the most interesting things I've observed in Johannesburg is that people will go to restaurants and discuss tenders, they'll discuss sensitive political plans in the restaurant. Some other people will be discussing breakups, all kinds of details, right here amongst the people. What are you doing? There's a saying, you don't air your dirty linen in public. You should never do that. You know, I once saw Floyd Shivambu just after this whole EFF fracas and MK fracas, and this is after the MK fracas. He was in Rosebank at Tasha's in the middle of a political meeting, days before the first press conference of Maibuya, where he was going to announce the consultative process and all of that. And I just thought to myself, if people wanted intel on Floyd right now, all they have to do is sit at the table right next to him. And I was with my friend Tando. He's the one who actually pointed out and said, hey, there's Floyd and all of that stuff. And I was like, what? You know, these restaurant meetings, they are for friends. They're for family. They're not for Hosh Kari behavior. You can't be discussing Hosh Kari behavior where everyone has a smartphone. You can get photos taken of. Some of the people now are recording spy videos. I don't know. So that's the first thing that I thought. I was like, no. This meeting was a blunder. Secondly, the red flags were obvious. So she said on the Pule Jones ENCA interview, I was set up. You know, she says, I asked the guy when I got there, why do you hate me? And that's true. She did ask me, the journalist, she did ask him, why you hate me, or some version of that before she sat down. Then the journalist from Daily Maverick says, look, I don't hate you. I did not hate Lucky Montana. I didn't hate Zweli Mkhize. I didn't hate Brian Molefe. That's what the journalist says. Now I'm going to submit to you and to Umama, madam, that was your sign from God, that this man was looking to bury you in his reporting. Listen carefully to what he said. She's like, do you hate me? He's like, no, I didn't hate Lucky Montana. I didn't hate Zweli Mkhize. I didn't hate Brian Molefe. He's putting you in the same category as the people who the Daily Maverick said were state capture looters. That's where he's putting you in digital vibes. He's saying you are in the same box as these people. He's implicating you in corruption in that answer, right? And he's saying, look, I do this thing for fitness. It's not personal. It's just business. I would have asked him at that moment, hey, what do you think I have in common with Zweli Mkhize, Brian Molefe, Lucky Montana? What do they have to do with me? I understand you reported on them, but why do you feel like I'm in the same bucket as them? Are you trying to say I'm guilty? Are you trying to say I'm corrupt? Are you trying to say I'm capturing the state? What are you trying to do? And I would have left at that particular moment. I would have told my spokesperson, dude, no, the block is hot. Let's go. Not only is this guy writing articles about me, he's linking me with some of the people who his publication have really said are enemies of the state, the public purse. Why would I get myself in that conversation and stay? She stayed. That was not a good move. fundamentally, I'm going to my third point now. I don't think that she's the main target. I think she is an ancillary target. They're really trying to get this fellow here, Collen Mashawana. Collen Mashawana and Austin Mashawana are the main targets from what it seems to me. He's the one who's been winning or getting the various contracts from the government. Who is this Collen Mashawana character? He's the CEO of AfriBiz Investment and the chairman of the Collen Mashawana Foundation. Now, according to its LinkedIn page, AfriBiz Invest is a pan-African investment company investing in the continent's strategic sectors with a focus on infrastructural space. It was founded in 2005. According to his foundation bio, where he speaks about the business, Dr. Collen Mashawana says that AfriBiz Invest oversees a conglomerate that specializes in consulting services, construction, property development, energy, ICT, mining, training, security, financial services. Any Hosh in that particular sector, he's there, Baba. That's what he's trying to say. He says this umbrella company consolidates over 20 subsidiary companies operating within the infrastructure sector. Now, his background, educational background, is that he actually did a diploma in information technology. I don't know what his further studies are. He has an honorary doctorate, which is why you'll hear him referred to as Dr. Collen Mashawana for all of this philanthropic work, which now it seems was funded by the government in one shape or form. So his foundation, the Collen Mashawana Foundation, got tenders from the IDT. And one of the tenders that he's implicated in getting is a Rand 60 million tender. The time at which that particular tender was awarded is when he started making financial contributions to Tebogo Malaka towards the building of her mansion or the family mansion. And then he got this tender for 60 million. Now, what you need to understand is that there was a large amount of money, 750 million, which was allocated from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to run an expanded public works program. Right? 750 million Rand allocated to run this expanded public works program. Now, what happened was that money then got channeled into some of the companies that are linked to Collen Mashawana, and he was the big winner of that. And then now, some of the money seems to have gone to the Waterfall Estate, which is being built for this lady, the CEO, suspended CEO, and this particular point, and this particular, narrative or saga or scandal, however you want to look at it. Now, there's a major point that I want to make. The takeaway from this episode. In the book, Dead Aid, Dambisa Moyo makes the argument that large-scale infrastructure programs are one of the ways in which governments do large-scale corruption. He says that's where the corruption really happens. All of this, we're spending so much for roads, that's where she says they're chowing the money. And there are often announcements which are made by the president in the State of the Nation speeches about infrastructure spend and about public work programs and how much money is going to be spent on them. These announcements are often large amounts of money, and they always frame it as, if we do this expanded public works program, we're going to solve unemployment, we're going to get growth, we're going to get all of this. And I've always been a little bit skeptical because I've been reading these State of the Nation speeches, following them for a long time. Under Zuma, you'd hear about expanded public works program. Every year, I'm hearing about these programs, the infrastructure spend. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, how come every year all of this money is spent on infrastructure and public work program? And the unemployment rate keeps going higher and higher. And in fact, most people can't point you to improved infrastructure in their areas. Of course, in the affluent areas in Joburg, in Cape Town, everything is rosy there. I mean, Sandton now is having a weird problem where they don't have water in Sandton, which is what makes Dada Morero's term of office very, very, fragile, and also makes the Helen Zille campaign for mayor of Johannesburg have a lot of juice and a lot of fuel in that engine, because as things stand, some of those things I'm talking about, which you typically would see in affluent areas, are no longer the reality in Johannesburg. But nonetheless, what I'm trying to put across is that outside of the affluent areas, the main roads, those type of areas, you don't often see much infrastructure development. Like if you go to Rosebank, you'll see a lot of infrastructure development. But if you go to Katlehong, you may not see as much infrastructure development, if any. So that's something that I've always kept in mind. So looking at this particular scandal gives us more insight into how things are playing out, right? So the money is allocated by the Minister of Finance to the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure gives the money to the IDT. And the IDT is a Schedule 2 public entity, which is defined by the Public Finance Management Act as, these are state-owned entities. They're expected to operate on a commercial principle, generate revenue which covers their expenses. Some may receive government support like guarantees or subsidies. So Public Works gets the money. Then they give the money to IDT. IDT then advertises and then gives other companies the work. That to me is where the problem lies. There are too many middlemen being introduced into the equation. Why doesn't the state just hire these people directly, buy the raw materials that are necessary for the construction projects or whatever, directly, buy the cement, store it, whatever? Because you keep using these contractors and they add costs. Obviously, they're looking for a profit. They underdeliver. And in many instances, they just scam. They rip people off. And it's a travesty. It's a travesty. So what happened with this particular Collen Mashawana Foundation, and what is the allegation? So they got a lot of the money which was allocated for the public works program. And they were one of the biggest winners of the tender in 2024. And that big win is what led to the CEO being in trouble. Because she gave most of the tender to the Collen Mashawana Foundation. It was a red flag. The other NGOs started talking, and then they got in touch with Daily Maverick, I think is what happened. And then all the tea started spilling. That was a mistake. You should have just, low key. Sometimes the greed also takes over. The Hosh Kari greed. Hosh Kari greed. Just greed takes over. So these guys, the Collen Mashawana Foundation, was responsible for managing 1,800 workers in various programs and provinces. And the money was supposed to go to the workers for a period from August to March of 2025. But the workers were not paid that money. There was skimming of that money. And then at some point, there was non-payment, but they were still invoicing the IDT. So the IDT was still paying out to the foundation. But the workers, they worked in August, in September, and October. They didn't get any work in November, December, January, February, March. All of those months were still under the bid, under the contract, and were being tendered according to the allegations. Allegations! I have to say that to avoid litigation. I don't have MacG money. We don't sell no punch here or nothing. So can't take risks like that. So it was allegations. But if you pay attention to what the case study is suggesting, is that the money was not even used for the employment of these workers for a long period of time. And many of them are saying they didn't get paid and they want that money. And when you even think about how much money it is that they were being ripped off, it was 1,800. They were not getting their 1,800 rands. And that money was going all over the place to the foundation, not going to them. So it's a massive scandal. And it explains, number one, why we don't see improved quality of life for the people in these programs, because they don't get the money. It explains, number two, why we're not seeing an improvement also in the economy, because if those people are not getting the money, they don't have spending power, they're not able to buy goods and services within the market. That's not going to improve or grow the GDP. And also, it explains why we're seeing these people getting very wealthy, but from government deals, but we're not seeing what they're producing. Now, Collen Mashawana has got a very good public relations operation that he runs. He often profiles houses that he built, the before and after and all of that. And many people do respect him, but these are serious allegations. And I think he's been on the radar of Daily Maverick for a while. And finally, they think that they've got him, which is why they're pushing along with this. And there have been some implications that he's connected in one way or another to Paul Mashatile. I don't know if that's the real reason, but it looks as if she was not the big fish that they were trying to get. Now, the IDT CEO says she didn't offer the bribe. She said that before Daily Maverick did an update. Now they've updated and they've released more footage, and she's mentioning the 60,000 with her own mouth. Your own mouth is talking about tokens of appreciation or whatever. And she was offering, while talking to that journalist from the Daily Maverick, that she's going to arrange discussions with the Collen Mashawana guys, the brother, all of that. And she was sitting at the table when they were offering the Daily Maverick journalist government contracts. All of that was happening in her presence. Ma'am, mama, your story is not adding up. We need General Mkwanazi to talk to you. You need the Mkwanazi treatment for real. All of this is Hosh Kari behavior. Prime rib Hosh Kari behavior. Give General Mkwanazi the money he needs. Give him the money he needs. The other day, I saw on social media a Hosh Kari mama leading a convoy of luxury cars. And the business that she's in is that she sells sandwiches, quarters and whatnot. How many quarters do you sell to have your whole crew moving in a convoy of luxury cars? Yeah, we're seeing a lot. And that lady has been linked to some Hosh Don daughters. I'm saying let's set up the Hosh Kari Behavior Unit as a matter of urgency. We'll end corruption, grow the economy. If we can just establish the relationships between all of these people and the Hosh Kari mamas, and we'll solve a lot. Have you been following the story of the CEO of the IDT? It's an intriguing story, I must say. You know, the original videos of Bribe Day were already, I'm calling it Bribe Day. They were already quite a lot. And then she tried to deny. Now she's done her own interview. You know, others have Bribe Day. You know, she's got Bribe Day. Where they be going to offer bribes, allegedly. So what did you make of all of these shenanigans? It's Hosh season in this new dawn. This is not what was promised. You know, it was supposed to be a new dawn, but it's old Vaseline. It's old Vaseline. Let's meet in the comment section. We'll talk. There's an upcoming episode on Katiso Mulefe. I saw that he was denied bail, which is good. There's an upcoming episode because there's a lot happening with that chap. He needs his own standalone episode. Till the next one.